You've been walking through it this whole time. Every mission, every map, that thick black stuff covering the ground, pulling in the low spots, creeping up the sides of buildings like it has somewhere it needs to be. You've been avoiding it, driving around it, watching your contamination meter spike when you accidentally cut through a pool of it trying to save 30 seconds. But I want to ask you something. What is it actually, not in the gameplay sense, not it slows you down and drains your health? I mean, what is it really? Where did it come from? What does it do when it touches something living? Why does it behave so differently from any contamination or chemical spill you've ever seen in any other game? Because the sludge in Toxic Commando is not pollution, it's not a chemical. It's not even really a substance in the traditional sense of the word, it's something much stranger than that. And once you understand what it actually is, it changes how you see everything happening in this world. Every mission, every map, every enemy. So let's get into it. Back to October 29th, 2033. The moment everything changed, when Leon Dorsey's drill broke through and the sludge god came up from beneath the earth, the first thing anyone noticed wasn't a creature emerging from the ground. It was a wave of black liquid pouring out of the breach, thick dark, spreading outward from the drill site in every direction like something under enormous pressure had finally found an exit. Within minutes, the area around the drill site was covered in it. Within hours, it had spread across a wide radius, and it kept going. Slowly at first, and then much faster, and then faster than that. And the first thing that confused the Obsidian Group's scientists was that it wasn't behaving like any liquid. They understood. Normal liquids find low ground. They flow downhill, they pool, they stop when there's nowhere left to go. The sludge didn't do that. It spread uphill, it climbed surfaces, it moved against gravity in ways that made no physical sense, like it had somewhere specific to be, and the normal rules of how liquids work simply didn't apply. And that's the first clue about what the sludge actually is. It doesn't follow physical laws because it isn't really a physical substance. It's an extension of the sludge god, an expression of its presence in the physical world. The way a shadow is an expression of the thing casting it. The sludge is the sludge god reaching outward from its source. Moving with purpose because the thing it belongs to has a purpose. That's why it climbs walls. That's why it spreads against gravity. That's why it keeps going. It's not flowing, it's reaching. Now here's where things start getting genuinely disturbing. When the sludge makes contact with organic matter, soil, plants, animals, people, it doesn't just coat the surface. It doesn't contaminate the way a chemical spill would. A chemical spill damages what it touches. It burns, it poisons, it kills. The sludge does something different. The soil underneath the drill site didn't just become dirty. Its chemical composition changed at a fundamental level. The microorganisms living in that soil, the bacteria, the fungi, all the tiny living things that make soil what it is. They didn't die, they mutated, became something different. Something that serves the spreading of the sludge rather than resisting it. The plants didn't just die either, they twisted, grew wrong. Developed structures that don't appear in any botanical record anywhere. Dark and thorned and growing in directions that look almost deliberate, like they're part of a landscape being designed, rather than just vegetation dying off from exposure to something toxic, and the animals follow the same pattern. Any creature exposed to the sludge that didn't die immediately began changing in ways that reflect the sludge's purpose rather than the animal's own biology. The infected zone isn't a place where a catastrophe happened and everything is slowly dying. It's a place being actively remodeled, reshaped at a cellular level into something the sludge god wants it to be. The sludge isn't contaminating the environment, it's renovating it, turning the surface of the earth into a version of itself that suits an ancient entity that has been sleeping beneath it for longer than human civilization has existed, which means the sludge is not pollution, it's a construction material. Okay, now let's talk about what it does specifically to people. Because this is the thing nobody in the Obsidian Group's containment teams was remotely prepared for. When a person makes contact with the sludge, the process begins immediately. You can see a version of this in the game through the contamination meter, that gauge that fills as you spend time in the sludge pools. Your screen gets that thick red tint, your health starts going down. Your visibility deteriorates. What the game is showing you mechanically is a simplified version of something genuinely horrifying that happens at a biological level. The sludge enters the body through any point of contact. Skin contact is enough. You don't need an open wound. You don't need to swallow it. It works through the skin and then it moves through the bloodstream. And here's the key thing. It doesn't destroy cells the way a toxin would. A toxin damages and kills the cells it encounters. The sludge does something different. It changes them, rewrites them at a level below what conventional medicine has any category for. The nervous system is the main target. The sludge moves through the body toward the brain, toward the place where the person's consciousness, their individual will, their sense of being themselves actually lives. And when it gets there, it doesn't destroy those things, it overwrites them. The person doesn't die in any conventional sense. The body keeps working, the muscles keep responding, the senses keep functioning. Everything biological about the person continues operating more or less normally. But whoever was making the decisions inside that body isn't there anymore. It's the sludge god, directing the body remotely, using it as a unit in the army it's building. Every human being the sludge reaches and overwrites becomes another homo mortis, another soldier in a force that grows larger every time the infection spreads further. And here's the question the game never directly answers, the one that I keep coming back to every time I think about what the sludge actually does. Is the person still in there? When the sludge overwrites someone's consciousness, when it takes control of their body and turns them into part of the horde, is the original person completely gone? Or are they still present somewhere inside aware, watching, just completely unable to do anything about it? The game doesn't tell you, and I genuinely think that's intentional because both answers are awful in completely different ways. If they're gone, if the sludge fully erases the person and replaces them, then every homo mortis out in the infected zone is just an empty shell. The person ended the moment the sludge reached their brain. What you're fighting is a biological machine wearing a human face, which is horrible, but at least it's a clean kind of horrible. But if they're still in there, if somewhere inside every roamer and goon and slob, there's a person who is fully aware of what their body is doing and completely unable to stop any of it, then the homo mortis aren't just dangerous, they're trapped, watching through eyes they can no longer control. The present, for every moment of the nightmare their body has become part of. Unable to speak, unable to signal, unable to do anything at all, except exist inside a body that has been conscripted into an ancient god's army against their will. The game doesn't tell you which one is true, and I think you're supposed to sit with both. Now there's one more thing about the sludge worth talking about, and it's actually the detail that gives the whole story its most interesting angle from a lore perspective. The sludge can be weaponized not just as an environmental hazard. The commandos themselves, who got infected during their first mission inside the containment zone, carry the sludge's energy in their own bodies. And Leon's technology harnesses that. It takes the infection they're carrying and converts it into the power source for the weapons they use against the sludge god's army. Think about that for a second, the thing that ended the world, the substance that is actively remaking the planet into something inhospitable to human life. It contains an energy that can be turned around and used against itself. The commandos aren't just surviving their infection, they are literally powered by it, running on the same corruption they're fighting. That's not an accident or a gameplay convenience. That's a lore detail with significant implications. It means the sludge isn't just a one-directional weapon the sludge god uses to consume the world. It's also potentially the key to stopping it, the same energy just redirected, which is exactly what Project God Killer is built around. The idea that somewhere inside the sludge's own nature is the mechanism for defeating the thing producing it. Maybe the commandos being infected isn't a liability. Maybe it's the only reason any of this has a chance of working. And one last thing before we wrap up. The contamination mechanic in the game, the meter that rises when you walk through sludge pools, is actually the most honest representation of what the infection feels like from the inside. Your screen fills with red, your movement slows, your health drains, everything gets harder. That's not an arbitrary gameplay punishment for standing in the wrong place. That's what every homo mortis felt in the moments before they stopped being themselves. The contamination meter filling is the sludge moving through your system. The red screen is your perception being affected as it works toward your nervous system. The slowed movement is the earliest stage of your body starting to respond to something other than your own will. You're not just taking damage, you're experiencing the beginning of what took everyone out there. The difference between you and them is that you get out of it in time, you manage it. The contamination recedes. They were just people going about their day on October 29, 2033. Workers at the drill site, contractors in the infected zone, civilians who didn't make it out before the wall went up. They didn't get out in time, and now they're out there doing the sludge god's work, wearing the faces of whoever they used to be. That's what the sludge actually is and what it actually does. Not pollution, not a chemical weapon, not a virus in any conventional sense. An ancient entity expressing itself through physical matter, rewriting everything it touches according to rules that existed long before humans showed up, turning the planet into something it wants. Turning to people, it reaches into soldiers, it directs somewhere inside those soldiers. Maybe there's still something left of the person who was there first, watching, waiting. Completely unable to change any of it. That's it for today. Next video, we're going into the Dark Horse prequel comic, Rise of the Sludge God. What happens before the game starts, what it shows about Leon and Gallagher and the early days of the outbreak, and what details it reveals that the game never directly shows you. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and drop a comment. Do you think the people the Sludge takes are still in there somewhere, or are they completely gone? I think about it every time I play. Tell me what you think